It's showtime.
Hey guys, Django Fett here, and we are back with another episode of the awesome Mandalorian podcast, and once again joined by my friend Captain Awesome.
Hey guys.
So I'll put all of his information in the description down below. But today we are doing our top 5 best and worst movies of 2018. So we're going to start off with our 5 best first, then get to the worst a little bit later. Number 5 on my list, and that is The Night Comes For Us. Now this is a unknown title you might have never heard of, but this was featured on Netflix briefly. And this is an Indonesian film much akin to the Raid films. It's honestly one of the best action films I've seen yet. I keep saying this, but it is truly a great action film, and I truly think this is gonna, pave the way for more action films to come from Indonesia for sure. I've already done a review for this, and I cannot wait to see what the director does for future films. So I'm really excited for how Indonesia is gonna do for future action films for sure.
My number 5 is probably the most intense movie of 2018, and that is A Quiet Place. John Krasinski's debut as a filmmaker, and it was very impressive. The cast was great at the acting. The atmosphere is at times claustrophobic, and there was one point in the movie for 30 minutes you couldn't even breathe by how intense it was. It's a very emotionally driven film. Obviously there's certain rules of horror movies, and this one is no different. But I've never seen a movie in such a long time that's had me on the edge of my seat with this one. And I know a lot of people have seen it already and they praised it a lot. But this movie, it didn't exactly scare me, but it definitely had me hooked. Definitely watching it during this amazing experience.
So my number 4 is Ready Player One. I've actually already seen this twice in theaters and already got it on Blu-ray, and it's one of the best Steven Spielberg movies I've seen yet. I haven't seen him do a lot of films as of late, but this movie has everything you want from a video game fan and has so many references and action and just a really cool concept overall. And I thought this film just blew me away overall with the visuals and the spectacle and the story, and I just love this movie overall.
Well, ironic. My number 4 is also Ready Player One.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, this movie, I love this film. It embraces, the history of pop culture, especially video games. It literally brings to life anime, comic books, all types of stuff. Hell, characters we've never even seen live action, like Gundam and a few others, which was pretty cool. One of Steven Spielberg's best movies in years. The movie is visually gorgeous. It's fun. It's exciting. It's action-packed. Has likable characters. Good performances by Ty Sheridan and Olivia. Overall, I really loved the music, and I loved all the Easter eggs and the really good message behind the movie, especially at the end. And it's a very awesome film, and I came out of it feeling a lot of nostalgia of many things I love, but also, it introduced a new, a generation of technology with virtual reality, which was really cool too.
So my number 3 is Wind River. Now this is a film that actually came out in 2017, but I ended up watching it in 2018, and this movie is just so fucking mind-blowing. It's basically a new Western murder mystery film, and it's written and directed by Taylor Sheridan, who's done phenomenal films, Sicario and others. And this one centers around Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Moran trying to solve a murder that occurs on an Indian reservation. And it leads to some crazy twists and turns with a just intriguing story from start to finish and engaging characters. And I think this is just some of the best performances I've seen. Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen, you've seen them in Avengers, and now you see them in like a really serious, down-to-earth roles, and it's just so mind-blowing, their performances overall, and just the movie in general. I love this movie.
My number 3 is one of the most successful movies of 2018, and that was Black Panther. This movie, obviously after seeing Black Panther and Captain America Civil War and how awesome his debut was, I was excited to see how they would, bring him to life in a solo film, and, it delivered. It was, it was very faithful to the comics. They basically made us explore interesting mythology and lore of the app culture, also evolved technology. And it was really interesting because it wasn't just like a typical Marvel film. There was a thriller to it with Killmonger and the whole secret, basically, of what was going on with him. And a lot of great acting performances, loads of great chemistry between the cast, fantastic music, and overall really great coming-of-age story. Plus, I'm a huge Black Panther fan, so I've waited a long time to see this, and I was glad they did justice to the character.
So my number 2, and I think you'll put this one a little bit later, is Avengers Infinity War. This was an epic movie, and combining everything we've been, seeing references and here and there from the standalone films and the Avengers films. This is here. This is now. And it was epic. It was awesome. And we finally see Thanos getting all the rings, or the rings and the gauntlet, and him just being this unstoppable badass, played by Josh Brolin. It was just an amazing spectacle. It's not the prototypical film where, the heroes win. This time, Thanos actually gets the upper hand, and, you finally see the villain win in the end. And it was just amazing overall, and I cannot wait to see how they, finish it off with the next movie for sure.
My number 2. Okay, I waited all year long to watch this movie. And obviously it's a DC movie, and the only DC movie of 2018. This movie shocked me, and I think it shocked many other people by the looks of it. And that's Aquaman. This movie was fun, exciting, adventurous, ambitious. It explored the awesome lore of Atlantis. It had incredible music, very breathtaking action sequences, good acting performances, and visually gorgeous as a whole, the way the universe looked. And it was a very good standalone film. It was very standalone away from the Justice League and all that rubbish that's been going on, so that was good. And overall, the surprise of 2018 for me, and as an Aquaman fan, I was very happy and pleased with the way the movie turned out. And it was a really fun movie.
So my number 1 is Mission Impossible Fallout. So this was an incredible movie from start to finish. Basically, hopefully it finishes off the Mission Impossible universe, but it was just an epic action spectacle, and it was honestly a great action film, one of the best action films I've seen this year, and much akin to how badass and epic it was in scale to Mad Max Fury Road. It's honestly up to that level, to be honest, and Tom Cruise nails it. His acting and his just freaking skill, like as just doing his own stunts, is just jaw-dropping. It's amazing. And you see Henry Cavill as the villain. It's just, honestly, that mustache was worth it. I'll just say, leave it up at that. But yeah, this was a great movie. I fucking loved it, and it's definitely worth my number 1 for sure.
My number 1 is Avengers Infinity War. Now, I waited fucking 10 years to watch this epic spectacle, and it was worth the wait. Thanos was everything I could have ever wanted. It was unpredictable and subverted expectations in the right way. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Ryan Johnson, goddammit. And the way the movie was, action-wise, was excellent, visually gorgeous when it came to cinematography. The interactions and crossovers between the characters were so fun. It took you in directions you weren't expecting, and that was amazing. And overall, the ending was very haunting and bold, especially, as you said, Django, earlier, for the villain to actually win for once is shocking. So that was very unpredictable, and it's got me so hyped for Avengers Endgame this year.
Alright, so that is our top 5 movies that we just loved in 2018. Next, we're going to segue to our top 5 worst movies of 2018. I'm going to start off with number 5, and that is The Nun. I didn't expect anything from this movie. I actually ended up watching this with my girlfriend because there was like nothing to watch during that time. The movie was awful. Like I'd never watched any of these Exorcist movies or whatever they're called. I've never been a horror fan. But yeah, this movie wasn't scary at all. It was just fucking hilarious. I don't know how bad it was. And honestly, on that aspect, that's why it's on the lower or the upper spectrum of my worst list, because it's not as bad as the other ones that I'm gonna name off, because I enjoyed it on how funny it was. So it gets credit for that.
Okay, my least but third worst movie of 2018 was A movie, even though I enjoyed it as a pleasure, I will still admit it's a bad movie. It's a mess of a pacing, editing, just characters. You know, it's over the top, it's cartoonish, but it's Venom. And I did kind of enjoy this movie because it's hilariously bad, but at the same time, I will admit it is a terrible film. But at the same time, I did enjoy it. And I would like to see, I would like to see a sequel with Carnage and see what kind of fucking weird shit they would do with that. So yeah.
So my number 4 is Annihilation, and I know it's going to piss off a lot of people. I still don't understand this movie. I was looking forward to this movie, and I thought it was a really big disappointment, to be honest. And it's directed by Alex Garland, who did Ex Machina, and I thought that made sense, and it was a great movie. But I feel like this movie just was all over the place, and I didn't really understand where it was going. Like, it was just too complicated for me. And I understand you have to watch it like multiple times, and you know, you have to dig deep to understand the movie, and I understand that. As a movie spectacle, this movie just doesn't have it for me. Like, I was expecting more, much akin to Ex Machina, and I just felt like this was more of a disappointment than a truly bad movie to me. But it's just, I just felt like that disappointment just hurts the movie tremendously, in my opinion.
Second is the great Solo, a Star Wars that literally was boring as fuck and forgettable and ugly to look at when it came to the cinematography, and pacing was all over the place, and the editing, there was all the reshoots, and you didn't know who the fuck, you know, filmed what out of the directors. It was a mess, and to be honest, we didn't need this movie. Unnecessary, and Disney, the more it goes on, they're killing Star Wars, to be honest. So, or it's already kind of dead anyway, but you get what I mean. It was a fucking mess, and this was definitely my second worst movie of last year that I watched.
Alright, so my number 3, and this is a movie that actually ended up coming out last year, but I ended up watching this year because you guys made me fucking watch this, and that is Justice League. Yeah, this was not a good movie. It was way too long. It had tons of pacing issues. The characters were awful. Even Wonder Woman and fucking, I guess Batman too. Batman was just forgettable. He was just behind the scenes. He was like fighting bug monsters while everybody else was fighting the fucking big baddie. This was just a big flop. And yeah, it destroyed the DC universe after Batman vs Superman, to be honest. Well, even more, I should say. But yeah, it was an awful movie. This was trying to be Avengers-esque, and it fails on every aspect. And it's, you know, the reshoots are done by the guy who did Avengers.
Oh, I will say it before I go on my last movie.
Sure.
Yeah, this movie, Justice League, is basically Superman and his bitches. That's all I will say, because that's basically the movie. Anyway, my last movie. Oh god, this fucking film, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, was the most insulting, most boring, most annoying movie I watched of last year. I don't think I've had my intelligence insulted so much. Literally, this was nothing more than a Michael Bay movie. Dumb popcorn flick, and I can't believe it made... Well, actually, why am I really shocked? It made $1 billion, just like the previous one did. And this movie has dumb characters. It had that stupid guy with the glasses who was straight out of a Transformers movie. The plot is just boring. They said there was going to be horror elements. There was none at all. Chris Pratt is literally running around like a headless chicken throughout the movie, and there's this one plot twist which didn't even need to be in the movie. It doesn't even make sense in the Jurassic Park universe, and then they do something at the end to set up Jurassic World 3, and you're like, how is this gonna work? Like, it's just really fucking dumb. And Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, fuck this movie. I hated it. It's garbage, and I won't watch it ever again. So that's my worst movie.
My number 2 is Tomb Raider. So, yeah, I was looking forward to this movie because Alicia Vikander and video game movies were starting to make a turn. We're starting to get better because after Warcraft, which I think is the best video game adaptation of all time in my opinion, many people are going to disagree, but I thought video game movies were going to make a change. But since Assassin's Creed and now this movie, I don't believe in video game movies anymore. Like, I'm done. I'm done with this point. Yeah, I had some faith in it because, like, I liked how they were going into the, I think this was the 2013 Tomb Raider game.
Yeah.
That premise and having Alicia Vikander, you know, playing the role, which I love Alicia Vikander. I thought it was perfect. It was made, the writing was on the wall. It was going to be a success, in my opinion. But yeah, I was dead wrong, and this movie just ended up using some parts of the 2013 that really worked, but it only had like 5 to 10 minutes of that, and the rest of the movie is just nothing but overhyped garbage. It just doesn't work, and it just ended up being a silly flop.
All I will say is, this is a movie that came out last year. Nobody's talking about it, and even I forgot it existed, so I'll check it out when I can, but that says it all when no one's talking about it.
But it doesn't top my number 1, which is The Predator. Yeah, this movie, I don't even know what to describe it as. It's the biggest abomination I've ever fucking seen in a movie. Like, it's awful. It makes, I've described it many times, and Cap knows how I describe it. It makes Alien Covenant look like an Academy Award-winning film. I kid you fucking not. It's that fucking bad. The writing is god-awful. The director, what's his fucking name?
Oh, Shane Black.
Shane Black is the worst fucking director ever, and I'm done with him. I fucking hate this guy. He ruined the Predator series. He ruined Iron Man. It is going to ruin countless other things because of his weird twists and art style, and I just don't fucking get it. I think he's just one of the biggest overrated and biggest hacks of all time. He's just fucking awful, and I don't believe in anything this guy fucking does at this point on. The Predator is an abomination. Do not fucking see it if you haven't seen it before, but if you have, you probably know how it is and just how it ends up being. It's just one of the strangest and worst movies of all time, in my opinion. Well, it's probably up there, for sure.
I'm going to say one thing about The Predator. I never planned on watching this movie, because even from when I saw the director, when I saw the trailers, I was like, yeah, fuck this. I could already see where this is heading, and I was right. Trash.
And plus they had all these reshoots, and they had this one premise where, oh man, I forget what it was, but basically they were trying to change it up into one of the dumbest fucking things, with predators teaming up with humans and stuff like that. But it's still fucking terrible based on the new reshoot premise with the predators and, you know, mixing with humans and creating the super predator and other shit like that, making, you know, grabbing the human and making, like, because he's you know, he's actually mentally retarded, and they wanted to use that because that's the next step of evolution. I kid you fucking not, that's in the fucking movie.
Oh, and another thing, I saw concept art a few weeks ago, and it showed that there was concept art for this movie originally that there was gonna be hybrid monkeys or something. Like,
really?
It shows you, yeah, it shows you there were some retarded ideas. Yeah. For this
oh my fucking god. This is why I wanted to do this last, because it would have pissed me off if I did it in the beginning. But that is our worst movies of 2018, and we also did our best as well. Let us know in the comment section what your best and worst movies in the description down below. Thank you, Cap, for joining me once again.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me on as usual.
No problem, and we'll be sure to do some more episodes for sure. We don't know as of yet if we'll come up with more right now, but we'll be sure to add some more guests in the future. If you're interested, let us know in the comment section if you would like to be included in an episode and what type of ideas you would like to, you know, incorporate that in the future. Let us know in the comment section. Please be sure to like this video, comment down below, subscribe to my channel Django Fett, and check out Captain Awesome's content as well in the description down below. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Alright, bye guys.